Good morning, one and all. Good morning, all you students of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption, Incompetence. Welcome to the midweek's episode of Speaking Out. Welcome, one and all. Today, the first day of October 2025. Yes, October is here. September is behind us. October, we're into October. I know once you get into October, the days will start sprinting. So just now, for those in America, they to talk about Halloween. Well, only America because they got Halloween in Guyana now. Halloween, then from Halloween is straight into Thanksgiving, and Christmas is right around the corner. Some places I say this month, October month, they start playing Christmas songs, try to get you in the spirit. So welcome this great day, Wednesday, the first day of October 2025. Here we are again for another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Another great day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's give praise and thanks for being in the land of the living. It is always a privilege to be able to wake and see the new dawn and to participate in this very interesting, educational, informative program. Yes. Here we are today once again. My colleague, Mr. CC, as we call him, Conway, is already in the studio. And you know, when he come on, I just got to, as the boys would say, I got to squeeze to make sure that there's no blackout and there are no technical difficulties and so on. But I can say this, as of now, there is none. So therefore, hopefully he gets to participate fully in today's episode. Yes. Here we are again. Great day. And you know, the usual format, we're going to make the announcements that we have to make. Then we're going to go straight into it. Roll call first. We're going to do the roll call as we have said. Roll call now is limited to those who come in first, those who come in early. We recognize those publicly, and then we move on to deal with the program. Now, these people molested me on this thing. I'll tell you how they molested me about in a short while. I want to tell you what they're molesting me about. Now, I want to tell you when most students are here, they remind me to tell you what the people are molesting me about this morning. Now, the program was scheduled at 8. We indicate to you now 8 o'clock instead of the 7 that we used to do, and people catch on. So almost immediately it is scheduled. People like the man from the hills is here. He comes down very early. Barlet first listed for us. Wayne from the UK. Charlene, Gibbo is here early. All they came at 8. Orin, Carlton, my squad mate, 9430 is here. Rosalind, Peter, Puran from the Essequibo Coast. Ezzy, Umu, Evelyn, Esla, Carl, Brian, Raul. They all came at 8. Then shortly after, we have Aubrey from Canada, Bray, Selwyn, Earl, Courtney, Carrie-Ann, Malcolm, Winston from California. Then we have is Jam is here. Then John, Brenda, Sean from upstate New York. They came at 8:01. So too did Vashni, and then Vibert, Desiree, Joan, Janella, Siobhan, Melinda, Patrick from the UK. Then it was Denise from Florida. Then after Denise, we had Ivor. They all came. Well, Ivor came at 8:02. Then you had Mary, David, the Angel, Stian, Siobhan, Marcus, Orin from the UK, and Derek, Kerry, Donald, Clifton, and the list goes on and on as to those who came in the schoolyard very early. And the classroom, those who came in the classroom, let me see who are the first students to be recognized when the doors were open. Let me see. Oh, here he is again. The first man was Edward Charles. Not surprising. Then we had Matthew, Lennox, Steve. Then it was Joan, Thomason, Carlton Popo, Simone, Rosie, and the list goes clear, and the list goes on and on and on. Right? So those are the people who came very early, and we appreciate your effort to get into the schoolyard and to get into the class very early. Well, we now deal with some announcements. We start with the sad ones first. Just to, we did tell you about the death of Dana Dalgetty, a former member, 290 Dalgetty. A reminder that she will be buried tomorrow. Let me just get it correct here. October the 2nd. Service October the 2nd. That's tomorrow from 5 to 9 p.m. at Frank Barone Funeral Home, 4516 Avenue D, Brooklyn, New York. And then they say a repast will follow immediately after at the American Legion Hall, 92nd East 92nd Street, Brooklyn, New York. Then, that's the one that I want to remind you of. There are others. We're going to deal with that on the next day. But just for those people who would like to go and pay their respects, those who are in Brooklyn, to Dana, right? Dana Dalgetty for W290 was our regulation number. And, more fatal accident. Let me tell you something. It gives me no pleasure to make these announcements. Almost every day. For this week, Monday, today, Wednesday, we had Friday, fatal accident. So between Monday, when we last met, and today, there's another fatal accident, which is alleged that a policeman driving a vehicle along the East Coast struck and killed a pedestrian. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go on, because I've noted that following my letter to the media on Monday, apparently it has generated some discussion, which is a good thing, on the carnage on the roads in Ghana. We are going to look at that in more detail as we go on, right? Then we reported to another murder. Good fortune, some misunderstanding with some men. One gets stabbed, he dead. That is where you're going, is blood, drugs, fatal accidents. That is what you find happening in Ghana. And the sad part, you're not seeing any proper response to these things. Almost every week, murder, stab, shooting, every week. That is what you have, right? And let me go to the more pleasant one, because it can be very depressing when they pick up the papers, what the news, fatal accidents, murder, right? And the like. Very, very depressing. Very, very depressing, right? Let me go to the happy one. Birthday greetings are going out today to my countryman. He always on the live. My countryman, Clive Gregory Nestor. I didn't know that was your middle name. Is Orin posted the thing. Clive Gregory Nestor said today he's 61 years old. He was 12-7-8-9. BV man like me. 12-7-8-9 Nestor. Today too is the birth anniversary of Patrick Todd. Patrick had some controversy during this time. I saw him sometime last month. Can't remember where exactly. In Guyana, I can't remember the exact location. My beard, he had a nice little white beard there. Patrick is observing a birth anniversary today. Then we have the birth anniversary of a former member, my squad mate, Bridget Braffett Wilcher, W363. Bridget was not only my squad mate, but we were in the same syndicate, right? With the class instructor, 6748 Yankees Church. So Bridget is observing a birth anniversary today. And one of the students, who is a regular, Carlisle asked me to send out birthday greetings to his wife, Flotilla Jacobs. And she's celebrating her 80th birthday today. Also celebrating a birthday today is the son of another regular member, Pastor Smith. Pastor Clifton Smith, 9339 Smith, his son, Clifton Oswald Smith, is celebrating a birthday today. Right? He's celebrating a birthday today. And I have some belated birthday greetings. I don't know how I forgot it on Monday. Belated birthday greetings are going out to teacher Blanche Duke, a stalwart in the village of Bedford-Wacton. She celebrated her 101st, 101 birthday, and teacher Blanche Latin Strand. 101, I think that was on the 29th, the day before yesterday, she celebrated that birthday. And there's a tape with her there being interviewed by one of the newscasts. Strong voice, well put together, and so on. Happy birthday to belated to Teacher Bland. And in terms of belated birthday, we told you yesterday was the birth anniversary of retired senior superintendent Louis Crawford. Louis celebrated yesterday would have been his 70th. Yesterday would have been his 70th. And then also we had Dudley 12-7-30. Dudley had to message me, boss, how you could forget my number? Because when I spoke on Monday, I said 11-7-30. I missed it by 1,000. So it's 12-7-30. Ned Dudley. They used to say it's my son. Right? So he's related birthday. And in terms of advanced birthday greetings, tomorrow is the birth anniversary of Errol Drakes. Those of you in the athletic arena will remember Errol as one of the long distance or middle long distance runners in the police force. They were, I think, the Drake brothers. 0620 was one. He was a sprinter. And then you had Errol, Essequibo boys. People from the Essequibo coast. Yeah, so he's celebrating tomorrow. I want to take this opportunity to wish all those who are celebrating birthday today, who celebrated recently, and who are celebrating in the near future, all the best on your birthday. And I should have expressed condolences to the relatives and friends of those persons who I announced passed recently. So yeah, we have birthday greeting. And before Mr. Conway come in, let me tell you that cricket, the game named cricket. I mean, it's not the same thing as when we were growing up, but cricket, I had to post yesterday, yay! West Indies avoided a whitewash by Nepal. They won the game yesterday by 10 wickets. And what some people say, well, they now get over the jet lag. That's why, imagine Nepal, first game, beat up by 19 runs. Second game was even worse, bigger beat up, right? Yesterday now, they come and they won by 10 wickets. So I guess the jet lag we're off. And they're able to do that. But I want to tell you something with jet lag before bringing CC. In the 2016 World Cup, they brought in a little boy named Shamar Ula, right? Off the plane from the West Indies, he went there to replace Ubed McCoy. From the plane, close on the field, and the man did exceedingly well. So when you're professional, you can't come and tell people jet lag. Well, that the player said so. Somebody commented on that. So yeah. Let me bring in CC, man, to get to make his opening remark. CC, welcome, man. Welcome to this great Sunday. This great sunny day, which is Wednesday.
Good morning. Happy to be in the land of the living to do God's work. Birthday greetings in place. Sympathy, condolences, and also in place. The cricket, yes, they won. And you're talking about jet lag. Clive Lloyd came off a plane, I think it came from Australia. A helicopter, picked up Timeri. The team was already, they started playing, and he scored a century against New Zealand, That's how the thing going. So don't tell me what jet lag. And tomorrow, India, and it's starting to get a green wicket, a green top. So look out for Bumrah and others. And Paul, as you said, if West Indies bat first, 2 to 3 days, the match is over. But they're getting a green top, the greenness of green top. So watch out for Bumrah and others.
That doesn't sound too nice. Sounds ominous. West Indies in this condition facing the green top in India there. Let's see what will happen, man. Let's see. Some people get faith, like Aileen and them, JK and them, get a lot of faith. Jacko and them get a lot of faith. Me, I watch the game. Well, I watch the game to enjoy the game. So, they got a game recently was New Zealand and Australia. And hey, watch the game, man, and enjoy good cricket. Now, let me move on to tell you, and this is a public service, for those of you living in the States or requiring services from the United States of America, the government shut down from this morning at midnight. The government shut down because of appropriation worries. The politics there. So let me just tell you, if you get to get services and so on, you need to make sure you're aware. But there's a release from the embassy. It says, at this time, scheduled passport and visa services in the United States and at U.S. embassies and consulate overseas will continue during the lapse in appropriations as the situation permits. We will not update this account until full operations resume, with the exception of urgent safety and security information. For information on our services, they tell you which site to go at. So if you got to get any service at any U.S. embassy or consulate, you might be advised to call and to find out what is going on. So that's just a public service announcement. Another public service announcement I see gaining traction in the media. Apparently, a minister of the government, the current PPP government, made some comments about the cash grant. And basically, he's alleged to have said that the cash grant from the oil proceeds will make us poorer. Will make us poorer if they were to give the promised cash grant. Remember the promised cash grant. But apparently, this minister makes some statement that he sought to walk back certain parts. So all of you don't start spending this cash grant for Christmas, you have better rethink and rebudget, do over your budget. Because Minister, I think it's Mubarak, one of the ministers said that you got to rethink this old cash grant thing because it can make the country poorer. So again, let me warn you, don't spend until you get. Now moving on. I saw an article, I think it might have been yesterday, and I'm pleased by let me pull it up. It's not a long article. Let me pull it up. It says, hold on. Oh, yes, it's that paper. Yesterday's paper. Orthopedic technician charged with sharing hospital images of Lola Dahl. Oh, it pleased my heart to see this charge. Hear what the story says. A 20-year-old orthopedic technician was yesterday remanded to prison after he was charged under the Cybercrime Act for allegedly transmitting images of social media personality Lolita Kalinda, called Lola Dahl, while she was being treated at the hospital for gunshot wounds. Trevor Sinclair, also known as Strats, who works at the Georgetown Public Hospital and resides in West Rhineville, Georgia, was arrested on September the 10th, 2025 by officers from the Albertown Police Station. He appeared before Magistrate Fabio Azur at the Georgetown Magistrate Court yesterday. Sinclair pleaded not guilty to the charge. The prosecution told the court that Sinclair was off duty when he allegedly entered the area where the alleged victim, Kalinda, was being treated. He reportedly took a photo of her and sent it to his friend, who eventually leaked it online. During the proceedings, Kalinda, who appeared via Zoom, told the court that she intends to continue with the matter. Sinclair was remanded to prison, and the case has been adjourned to October the 6th for the recording of statements. I said I was pleased to see this because, I mean, this is a woman who was attempted to be murdered. People shoot at she. They took her to the hospital. And this orthopedic technician, 20-year-old orthopedic technician, they say he was off duty. And they are saying, is alleging that somebody got into the room where this person was treated and took a photograph of this person fighting for her life. Fighting for her life. People like that have to be treated the way the full brunt of the law should befall them. Let me understand this thing clearly. The full brunt of the law. First of all, what are you doing in there? You ain't walking, what are you doing in there? And then when you go in there now, you ain't got to help, but you're going to take out a photograph and send them to a friend. That is what we have. And we see many similar incidents around accidents, people struggling, trapped in vehicles and so on, rather than people going there to try to assist. What they do, they're taking out video and posting them, live streaming and all them type of thing. That is the sickness in this society that we call Guyana. That is it. Woman there fighting for life, attempt assassination. He flung himself into the room. They're saying that he was off duty. So he must have gone there to take the picture. Because he didn't go to severely help him. He found himself in this room. And then the question comes up, what type of security they have to make sure only people who are on duty and are authorized gets into that area during the course of what would have been an emergency operation like this. So it raises a lot of questions. But I'm glad to know that, I'm totally against certain provisions of the Cybercrime Act. I've said this over and over, right? But in this case, I fully support the fact that this person was arrested, this person is charged, and let him face the music. Let him face the music. And then I see they say here that they going back on the 6th for recording of the statements. I don't know the recording of the statements. You see, they write these things and they don't have experienced court reporters now, so they write all kind of things. But back in the day, I remember you had court reporters, people who were assigned to the court. I think Julian Menz was one of the noted ones, right? I remember Julian, the older policemen here, older people here might remember other dedicated court Ian, this boy, what his name, we used to call it the crime chief, Dale Andrews from Kaicho News. There's were proper court reporters. They knew what to report. And no proper court reporter would have reported that they're going back for recordings of statements. I believe it's for the disclosures. When you go back there now, it's for the statements that the prosecution has to present to the defense, so to allow you to prepare your defense. So, yeah. CC, I'm sure you want to say something about this. So let me hear you.
I'm happy that they made an example, Too many persons are abusing this thing. They take out the photograph and they spread it out over the media. But I'm happy that, at least in this instance, they took appropriate action.
Somebody, I love my students, man. When they talk about court reporter, somebody said George Barclay. Yes, George Barclay was a noted court reporter as well. Those were professional court reporters. They knew exactly how the system worked, and therefore, when they wrote, they know what to write. Yes, Lyndon, George Barclay was one. I remember Julian Menz, right? I remember Julian. I think at some stage you had Uncle Cecil Griffith, and those men used to be Dale Andrews, and those people who were noted as and for the court reporters, in case you don't know, those people were assigned, or they worked with certain newspapers, and they were assigned to cover the court beat. So that is what they do. They covered the court beat and reported on what transpired in the courts. That you call them court reporters, right? They were court reporters. Now let me move on. And in moving on, there's still this matter which has not subsided. The matter involving the superintendent of the Iowa School District, Ian Roberts. It was reported that he was arrested and by the immigration authorities, who claim that he doesn't have the requisite papers to be living and working in the U.S. One big story, he arrested. These lawyers issued a statement yesterday, and we learned, I think it was yesterday, that his license to work, the license superintendent, has been revoked. I mean, it's a sad case when you follow that case. If you read it, I've been trying to follow and keep abreast. It's a sad case. This is a man, I knew him, or I knew or know him. He was an officer in the Guyana Police Force, a cadet officer. I see all sort of things going wrong and so on. But I remember Ian as a cadet officer in the Guyana Police Force, right? Bright, promising young officer, well-disciplined, neatly dressed, and so on. I understand, I can't recall where he was stationed, but I understand that he might have spent some time in Berbice and at the immigration department. I can't confirm that, right? But to know that this man, according to what they're saying, migrated to the U.S. since 1999, and sometime in 2024, some removal order because they say he wasn't legal. It's mind-boggling. All these years from 1999, and then the man went several positions in the teaching profession in several states. This thing is mind-boggling. I'm waiting to hear what is it. What are the full facts of this? Well, as I've said, he is retained. He has people, attorneys working on his behalf. And I got to say, you got to pray and hope for this man, because at the end of the day, he's not a person who they say rob anybody. He's not a person who they said was involved in any terrorist type of activity and so on. And therefore, I hope that the system will work towards its favor. But I ain't going to hold my breath, right? I am not going to hold my breath, especially in this current environment. But it's really, really sad. The young man, Well, 54, they said, right? Young man, bright boy. What they're saying too, they're claiming now too, that his claim that he has a PhD, a doctorate, is false. That is what the news is saying. That is false. They're saying that he did attend the college from 2003 to 2007 or 2002, sometime around then, but he never got a PhD. That is what they are saying. I see some people saying that he worked at the narcotics branch and he worked CID headquarters and all. I can't remember those things. But again, look at the overall thing, right? Real sad. Must be devastating to his family, right? Must be devastating to his family. A man who represented Ghana at the Olympics, you know. Good athlete. I remember him as an athlete in the police force. I think he used to do 800 or something like that, middle distance, 4 and 8. Maybe I remember him, right? I remember him very well because I used to be associated with the management of that athletic team during a particular period of time. So when I read this thing last week, oh my God. So I praying for Robbie, man. I praying for Robbie. Cece? Yeah, Cece.
Yeah, I know Robbie well, you know, and I know he was a cadet officer. I know he was in narcotics, and I was a sports officer, so I know him. He not only represent the police in athletics, he was representing police in basketball too, you know, and he was around the same time with Marion Barnett. Remember, she went to the Olympics in Australia. He also went there, you know. So I remember well. But thing I mentioned, something in mentioned somewhere along the line, as they said, the Matson.
The Matson. We hope and pray that the matter is resolved in his favor. Now, let me say this. You know, if this had not been so serious, it got to be real something to laugh at. And I'm referring to the warning from the police yesterday. They issued a warning for citizens not to offer lawmen bribes. Police came out warning people not to give bribes to lawmen. But before I say that, let me say this here. Because it was reported widely on the social media in particular that policemen were under close arrest because they were alleged to have demanded $10,000 from some outgoing passenger. That is the allegation. Inspector, they say, and other ranks demanded 10,000 Guyana dollars. Somebody said maybe it's US 10,000 Guyana dollars. I don't know what they were demanding it for, but they said the demand was made and the money was paid. But it's been reported that the person to whom the demand was made is closely connected or as a senior government minister, as a relative. And therefore, the person called the senior government minister who intervened. And then they arrested those persons against whom the allegation was made. And I think they say now is an inspector of police and a corporal are the ones. They said OPR investigate. OPR again, everything OPR. OPR. OPR investigated. Right? Now, following that, the commissioner, the squatter, visited, it is reported that he visited the Chedi Jagan International Airport. And he made a lot of talk. CC just called it seagull management. Fly in, shit up, make enough noise, and then move out. So he made a lot of things, right? Then the government of Guyana, it has been reported that the government of Guyana instructed that as of the 29th, which is Monday, all ranks working at the airports and other ports and so on must wear body camera. That is what those are the instructions. So the squatter flying there, make a whole set of noise. And then we saw a report that the ranks are from the immigrations department. So I think they saw him interacting with them. And they are now wearing a body camera. But let me say this. The allegation wasn't against ranks on the immigration department. The allegation was that the inspector and the corporal or on the other ranks, they are from the narcotics branch, working at the Timiri airport. That is what the allegation is. And I said this then, and I'm repeating it here. If you have an inspector of police in the narcotics branch at the Chedijagan International Airport or anyone else in that matter, and he can be demanding $10,000 from someone, 10,000 Ghana dollars. Imagine, and then Timor is a place where they claim up to the other day we see how much drugs, hundreds of pounds of drugs passing. How can such a person be trusted to work there? What type of vetting process they have to determine these people working there? And the drugs, the last set of drugs we found there in that container, that the uncover, is not the container, that's not the only one, that is not an isolated case. But the impression given to the casual observer is that maybe it's the immigration ranks who are involved because they are the ones wearing body camera. And I'm saying this on my information and investigation, this is not the immigration ranks. So then the question is asked, are you going to insist that all the ranks, whether they're immigration, whether they are plainclothes narcotics branch or anywhere else, should they be wearing body cameras as well? Should they be wearing body cameras as well? Because if the people against whom the allegation is made are not wearing body camera, then what is the purpose of this enough noise about wearing body camera? What is the purpose of that? And I say this too, as we have said before, you talk about body camera, which is good. I'm not against body cameras, but have you sat down and have you put together a proper standing operating procedure for the use of body cameras and for the use of tasers and all of these things? I maintain that unless and until you do so, and it's not just sitting down in some office and writing these things, it's making sure that the standing order is known to all. Standing order is known to every single police. They get 5,000 body cameras, they say. I am sure they don't have 5,000 active policemen. So therefore, for policemen to get a body camera shouldn't be difficult. Should not be difficult, right? But then what are the rules? What are the regulations governing the use? Who is to charge them? What happened to the images that are collected? How frequently are they uploaded? Are they uploading at all to any storage device? How long are they going to be retained in the storage device? Right? What are the penalties, or when should it be turned on by the ranks? When should it be turned off? What are the penalties for failure? All of these things have to be dealt with. It's not just a wear body camera. Then the next thing you know, as people have been commenting to say, all right, you got with the body camera. When you want to do your runnings, you just turn them off. And then you complain, say it didn't work. It didn't work. It malfunctioned. Look. Let me say this. And that is part of the problem we have in Guyana. People don't think these things through. They just come and they make all sort of statements to try to appease people. Oh, we put in body camera. But outside the body camera, let me say this before I bring in CC, because the report is saying that the act of the inspector and the other rank was caught on CCTV camera. It was caught, so there's no absence of video evidence. That's how it was caught. So what would the body camera have done in such an instance? Tell me that. What would it have? Would it have solved any problem? The inspector at Timiri and the other rank, I think this is a corporal now, because initially it said other ranks, but I think the last report suggesting that the inspector and the corporal under close arrest, investigating by OPR. Well, they know they get CCTV camera at the place, and notwithstanding that, they take the money from the lady. So you tell me if they put on body camera from them, they ain't gonna take too. All they're gonna do is turn them off. All they will do is turn it off, and they're gonna tell you all sort of thing about malfunction and all this type of thing. How often are these cameras to be checked and certified that they're working? All of these things have to be properly documented, and not only you write it for writing's sake, but then you have to have it published in force orders. You have to make sure that there are instruction classes. Perhaps you got to get people sign off. Every single person sign off that they have been instructed and they know how to operate and they know what the SOP is in relation to the use of body cameras. I offer y'all steady advice. Steady. But then y'all listen to y'all look at the messenger. Y'all didn't want to listen to the message. And I'm saying that what y'all talking about body camera is sheer nonsenseness. If you don't make sure that the proper system, a proper standing order is in place as to how it should be dealt with. And again, I say, is that a standing order where you sit down in some office and write alone? Having written the standing order, you have to make sure that it goes through a proper system so people understand what's going on. And more importantly, every single rank in the force has to be exposed to the training. They have to be exposed to what the order says about uplifting, about lodging, about turning off, about turning on, about charging. All of those things have to be there. Other than that, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. Let me bring in, I'm done with that, but I'm going to bring Mr. Conway, and then I'm going to come back. CC, let me hear you on this thing at Timiri there, and the commissioner ordering, or the government ordering for body cameras to be worn from the 29th. Your take.
Yes, we had a Seagull management where allegations, not even allegations, evidence surface. An inspector and a corporal involved in corrupt transaction said caught on CCTV, and up comes the outgoing conform squatter rushing with breakneck speed to Timeri. And he didn't go alone. He uprooted the senior superintendent Telford, deputy chief immigration officer, from his office and said, "Come, let me go." And he flew in, made a little noise, corrupt up everybody, and go along away. And they had left the impression, the perception that it was the immigration people who were involved. You see, you saw the photographs splash across the front page, I think of the Kite Show News and the other daily. Gone. That people will believe that it is the immigration, and it's not immigration. Narcotic section. And there's how he managing thing like a seagull flying, make a lot of noise, crop up and shit up on everybody, and then fly away. And that's the end of it. And Paul, you mentioned that they got to be a SOP. And then when you look at it, I wonder if it's not political interference in the Guyana police force, where the government order that people working at the airports and other ports of entry must wear body camera. I agree the government to say that you want no corruption in the place, but you can't tell me how I must decide the ways and means how I deal to reduce corruption or stamp it out. But look as though it's political interference. The government say, "Hey, you must wear body camera." That's for the police commission to decide. But I know if you get the ability to do that. And there must be a SOP. The squatter like to talk about SOP. Yes, we have SOP, and that is imaginary. And if they get SOP, few people know about it. Down to the last giant constable, the recruiter and training must know about the SOP. They must be training about the SOP. They write the SOP and it's lock away in a drawer. And then when things happen, you say, "Hey, they didn't follow the SOP." All must know, all must be involved in a SOP and must be well documented. But no, they say, wear body camera. And as you mentioned to Paul, how people could turn them off. I remember, when we were stationed in the interior, you had to get permission to travel out if you want to come out from the interior to Georgetown. And the only means of communication at certain location was by radio set. And what are some ranks used to do? It's for 2 days, you won't answer the radio set, but you're listening, but you answer the radio set, and then you send out a man, he jump on a plane and come out and say, and report that we're receiving the transmission, but we're not transmitting. So we couldn't seek any permission to travel out. And lo and behold, the communication section, they'll find something wrong with the set. And then they call and say, yes, we found the fault and we repair it and we must carry it back. So sometimes they say, stricter the government, wiser the population. But the thing is that this thing what they call body camera, you must have a proper SOP and it got to be enforced to the hilt. And all must be aware of the SOP. Mustn't write a SOP and then talk it away and leave it like that. And there's the whole thing. And then the action of the weekend, is a knee-jerk reaction. It's a knee-jerk reaction. Just to run in and make all of the night and he gone and then he pull the deputy chief immigration officer with him and leave the impression that is the immigration people involved and they are at fault. They done good work. There's one department that are doing some good work under difficult circumstances, but now using this one broad brush to paint the narcotics section and paint the immigration people and all kind of thing there. They got to do much better than how they're doing.
They have to do much better. They have to do much better. Now, I'm not finished with that. Well, let me give you a little pause in between. Share the life. Share the life. I mentioned at the beginning that a certain statement was made and I promised to. Because people are asking me who is the man, and who is the man. So before, let me end the mystery. Hold on, let me pull up this thing, man. It has been said, Big Smith News Watch reporting. Quote, I got 18 months more in this work, and I don't want nobody poison me, says the deputy commissioner. Let me read that back. Quote, I got 18 months more in this work, and I don't want nobody poison me, end of quote, says the deputy commissioner. Everybody asking me, who's the deputy commissioner? Who's the deputy commissioner? Big Smith posts a thing where you're calling and asking who's the deputy commissioner. You're calling me. Boy, no, look, let me tell you this. Without naming a name, from the time I read it, I started to go through a process of elimination. And in my process of elimination, I believe there's only one body could make a statement like that. One body can make a statement like that. You got to guess who is that person. One body can make a statement like that. Right? So you can guess, and that's your that is part of your homework, as to guess who the person is. But let me continue with this serious matter now after that little break. Share the life, right? And this is yesterday where police warned citizens not to offer lawmen bribe. Police are warning citizens not to offer lawmen bribe. Again, let's go back to this Timir incident. According to the report, nothing was offered. A demand was made. And the person acceded to the demand and then complained. Right? You might want to say the person should not have given anything, and I agree, shouldn't give, but you don't know the circumstances. Because based on what I'm saying, this person was somebody traveling out of the country. And therefore, you don't know if the person felt that he would have been prevented from traveling, and then get big business there to go and attend to it. So you don't know. And that is not to condone the act. But here what the police say. On the heels of two of its members being caught demanding money at the Charijagan International Report from a passenger, the Ghana Police Force has called for citizens not to offer bribes. Again, on the heels of this, they are calling on people not to offer bribe. Again, suggesting that the person, in this case at Timiri, offered something. According to what we understand, that is not the case. They never offered anything. A demand was made. It goes on to say, quote, the force has a zero tolerance policy for misconduct. Any rank found guilty of soliciting or accepting bribes will face the full force of the law. Equally, any member of the public found offering bribes will also be prosecuted, end of quote. A statement yesterday said. It said that it has noted with concern an increasing number of incidents where individuals attempt to influence police officers through bribes or tokens of appreciation in order to evade lawful procedure. Quote, such actions not only compromise the values of justice and fairness, but also contribute significantly to the erosion of public trust in law enforcement institutions, end of quote. It said in the statement. Quote, we have established internal mechanisms to identify, investigate, and deal decisively with any officer found engaging in corrupt practices. At the same time, we urge members of the public to play their part in the fight against corruption by refusing to offer bribes under any circumstances, end of quote. It reminded that both the giver and receiver of a bribe are culpable under the law and will face full consequences for the action. Citizens are encouraged to report any such bribe or attempted bribe to the Commissioner of Police Secretariat via hotline. They have the numbers there, and then they go on. According to the force, its officers from time to time of its recruitment are trained to serve with professionalism, impartiality, integrity, and dedication. Engaging in bribery undermines the very foundation of public trust, accountability, and justice. It was pointed out as well that the government has reinforced its commitment to transparency by mandating the use of body cameras by all law enforcement ranks at ports of entry. This measure will enhance accountability and help safeguard the rights of every traveler. The latest measure by the government was taken following the arrest of 2 ranks on Sunday following the allegation by a passenger. A statement from the police on Sunday said that CCTV footage and other evidence support the claim by the passenger. The officers involved have been placed under close arrest while the Office of Professional Responsibility carries out a full investigation. The release added that the government instructed that from yesterday, that is from Monday, all law enforcement officers operating at any port of entry, whether at airports or border ports, will be required to wear body cameras as a measure to ensure accountability and transparency. The public is reminded that no payment of any kind is required to clear lawful items through the Chedigargan International Airport or any other port. If anyone is asked for money, report it immediately to the nearest police authority. Corruption has been a major ongoing blah, 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 blah. Man, look, let me tell you something. In this statement, if you didn't know the characters, you would have believed that it can make little sense. But the commissioner himself, let me remind you all, the commissioner himself, Ikin, admitted to taking $8.5 million from businessman Amir Ahmad to finance Bruce's wedding. That is not corruption. That is not corruption. And given the fact that you have an allegation of corruption, officers, are they going to be wearing body cameras as well? Because here, this is a statement he wrote on the 20th of May, 2024. I'm going to read excerpts, right? He said, I instituted a policy of motivating my officers through supporting them for special occasions, such as weddings, birthdays, and anniversaries, by providing support from a stakeholders approach. As such, I decided to continue this policy and proceeded to inform several of my personal friends and stakeholders about scheduled wedding of Calvin Brutus, Assistant Commissioner of Police. Then he goes on to say, here the indicted party. Between the 1st to the 10th of November 2023, I received cash from Amir Ahmad in large envelope. I subsequently counted the cash, and it amounted to $8,500,000 Guyana dollars. I was told by Amir Ahmad that extra cash must be kept for any other unforeseen expenses that may arise. I subsequently sent Assistant Superintendent Lal, my personal assistant, to make the payment to Pegasus Hotel on the 11th of November 2023. They said I attended the wedding ceremony, and then attended the wedding ceremony, and something, is that too clear? Among other invited guests. On the 11th of December, I received a refund from Pegasus Hotel via Scotiabank check number valued $981,000, $981,703. I later gave the Scotiabank check to Assistant Commissioner Brutus, and everything that was paid for was consumed. Well, he said, had everything paid for was consumed, there would not have been any refund. Hence, in principle, it belongs to Assistant Commissioner Brutus and spouse. I later submitted the statement. There's a statement from the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Ricken. He was acting at the time. And as a result of that statement, the man said, get a stakeholder policy. It's corruption. It is corruption. And then when you tell him, and then there's a letter I'm going to read, but let me tell you, as a result of that statement from Ikin and the uproar that followed, y'all remember that the Vice President made a statement. Let me find it, man. The Vice President made a statement in relation to that. Where is it? Let me try to find it. Let y'all can read these things. I don't want to paraphrase and then misquote anyone, right? He made a statement. You remember the statement about it? Such act being reprehensible? Can you recall that? Hold on. I have it here somewhere. Let me bring Mr. Conway in the meanwhile while I try to find it. See, the man take $8.5 million. They're talking about taking money. I am not in favor, let me understand this thing clearly. The fact that this man, they're talking about offering. The evidence suggests that nothing was offered, they made a demand, which is totally different. Is that a case where you find somebody with something and the person said, man, take this $10,000 and give me a break? That is not what is being alleged. What is being alleged is that a demand was made for $10,000. Totally different. And I hope they understand the difference. SEC?
So true. You know, and I remember the Vice President said it was reprehensible. Reprehensible. He repeated it twice, but nothing had happened. Nothing had happened. Perhaps the Vice President was reprehensible. Now coming back to this corruption story, going into Timeri, hafting up the people, and said they must wear body cameras. That is only part of the system. If you want to get rid of corruption, that's only part. And there's no, as I said in traffic, there's no silver bullet. There's no one-shot solution. If you're going to deal with corruption, you got to get a holistic approach towards it. A holistic approach. And this token of appreciation, they're using fancy word, that is corruption. And it will start with a simple one. And then later on, when the freebies are coming up, police would start demand by menace. We know that. The freebies no longer available. They were demand by menace. And the corruption is from top. 8.5. And you tell me it's not corruption? And I give you 8.5 is not quid pro quo? Something for something? I give you something and I expect preferential treatment? And you seen all the preferential treatment that the sheriff man is getting? He can do as he like. He could say what he like and nothing will happen. But let me talk a bit about corruption, you know. Let me talk a bit about corruption. And there's some key elements for corruption. Key elements for corruption. One, it is prohibited by law or rule. Two, involves misuse of position. And three, it involves a reward or personal gain for the officer and or others. Let me repeat the key elements. It is prohibited by law or rule. This is one. Two, it involves misuse of position. Three, it involves a reward or personal gain for the officer and or others. Those are the key elements of Corruption. And I want to read something about corruption here, This is a book I got about years ago. Management and Supervision in Law Enforcement by Wayne W. Bennett and Karen M. Hess. It's available online. You can put it online. And here what it says about corruption. It says, corruption is a corrosive element that will spread like rust if it is not contained or eliminated. Addressing unethical behavior and corruption has become a top priority and major challenges for police administrators. The causes of corruption are complex. Many factors can contribute to corruption, including greed, personal motivation such as ego, sex, or the exercise of power, tolerance of the behavior by the community, socializing from peers and or the organization, inadequate supervision and monitoring the behavior, lack of clear accountability of employees' behavior, and this one is important, and no real threat of discipline or sanction. And no real threat of discipline or sanction. I want to commend this book to Management and Supervision in Law Enforcement. Wayne W. Bennett and Karen M. Hess. Go on Amazon and you can get it to buy. And when you're looking about corruption, if you want to deal with corruption, I want to give them the police force some ideas what they can deal with. What I say is a holistic approach, but here are some ideas. A good starting point is to eliminate the code of silence. The code of silence. And what is the code of silence? The code of silence encourages people not to speak up when they see another officer doing something wrong. Not to speak up when they see another officer doing something wrong. We had Boston who broke the code of silence. He talked about the paper shots matter. He talked about who received $30 million in bribe. And what happened to him? He broke the code of silence and he was charged cybercrime. He contested and he got off. Now, so there are some steps that can help you dealing with corruption and unethical behavior. And this is for the police force. One, I'm talking about these steps. One, recruit with care. Recruit with care. The recruitment system is totally flawed. I'm going to write an article on it. There are too many undesirables gaining entry into the police force. The floodgate is open. The recruitment is the selection process. You pass the exam, you pass the medical, you get no criminal record, you get a recommendation, you get a clearance from the area you live in and special branch, and you automatically will become a member of the Guyana police force. There are no proper checks and balances going on in the place. None whatsoever. And they're not testing for behavior. They're not testing for behavior. A lot of people come in the police force with a lot of psychopathic behavior, displaying certain traits. But they're not looking at that. You pass the exam, pass the medical, you get 2 recommendations, CRO clear you, you get a report from the station, a wishy-washy from the station, this is where you live in, and you remember the force. People don't look at behavior. You got to put them in position where you could identify certain type of behavior. Put them in situation good. So you say 1, recruit with care. 2, establish appropriate policies and put them in writing. Remember we talked about SOPs. Put them in writing. Establish them, put them in writing, and train the people with them there. 3, adopt a good employee evaluation process. 4, make your sergeant share management's value and philosophy. 5, develop operation control. 6, perform regular integrity testing. That's what they're not doing. regular integrity testing. The loaner driver package, they give it away to Zara, but nobody ain't doing no integrity testing to see whether or not Zara doing what they're supposed to do. Perform regular anti-corruption activities, inspection and audit. And this one is critical. 8. Implement ethics and integrity training into every training activity. Implement ethics and integrity training into every training activity. That must be a must. All the training we get, ethics and integrity must be part of it. Must be part of it. So the to stamp out corruption is a holistic approach. A whole lot of things you got to do. Not just run to Timeri, crap up on everybody, and then come back, and that's not the end of it. There are many, many other things that you have to do if you want to really stamp out corruption. Because corruption there from the top. And most times the top must set the example. But if the top collecting $8.5 million for a wedding ceremony, well, what you expect the bottom going to do? Monkey see, monkey do.
You know, one of the things that came out from the little that you read there just now is that many times when we talk about corruption, we equate it to people giving a bribe, passing money. But that book tells us, which we knew for a long time, it's also misuse of your position that is part of the corruption. You're bound to take money, or sometimes you don't have to benefit directly, your family members and all them. It's misuse of position. And as we said, the commissioner sat in his office. That's what he said. This is not an allegation. This is a confession. He sat in his office and he took 8.5 million, which he counted, he claims, which he counted. And what was the response of the vice president on behalf of the government? Listen to it yourself. Listen to it, what he said.
And let me also make it clear here today that this government never sanctioned a policy where private individuals and businessmen could pay for the birthdays and weddings of policemen or other public officials. In fact, we think it's reprehensible. It's reprehensible. So that's all I'm going to say for today.
Yeah, it is reprehensible. That's what the vice president said, right? And he was speaking on behalf of the government, as he said. And what happened? The man was promoted thereafter, so reprehensible act was rewarded. So when you're talking about corruption, you're talking about body camera, you're talking about all these things. What happened to all the allegations of firearm license being sold? What happened? Is them junior rank at immigration or at narcotics branch and thing involved, you know? The allegations that very senior people are involved. Driver's license being sold. Tint permit for vehicles being sold. Allegation is that the racket running out straight out of the minister's office. That is what the allegation is. So when you talk about corruption, y'all only giving lip service to this thing. And as we said, seagull management. If you really want to talk about corruption, if you really want to treat with corruption, read what happened in China recently. Read what happened. China has taken a firm stand against corruption with the sentencing of Tang Regine, or whatever the name, the country's former agriculture minister. Tang, who held one of the highest positions in the government overseeing agriculture policies and food production, was found guilty of accepting bribes totaling $38 million during his tenure. Those bribes allegedly came from businesses and individuals seeking to influence policy decisions, secure contract, or gain unfair advantages in the agriculture sector. Corruption has long been the focus of Chinese government, especially under President Xi administration, which has launched a sweeping anti-corruption campaign targeting officials at all levels, from local leaders to senior ministers. Tang's sentencing underscores the government commitment to holding every high-ranking official accountable and serves as a warning to others who might be who might exploit their position for personal gain. The court's ruling and the thanks the country's most severe punishment, execution. Such a sentence is in corrupt cases, though rare, demonstrates the gravity which China views large-scale financial misconduct. The case highlights systemic risk in government oversight and the importance of transparency and accountability in public office. That conviction is likely to resonate throughout China's political and business communities, reinforcing the message that no one is above the law. It also reflects the ongoing efforts by the Chinese government to combat corruption, strengthen governance, and maintain public trust in key institutions, particularly in the security and vital agriculture, particularly in the sectors as vital as agriculture, which directly impacts food security and economy. The minister there was accused of bribery, corruption. So he used his position to get 38 million US dollars over a period of time. Sentence when he's found guilty, execution. Execution. That is seriousness. That is seriousness. Some people say if you were to implement anything similar in Guyana, then you're going to get ministers. You're not going to get ministers. But if you really want to show that you're serious about corruption, you've got to take certain measures, investigate the Sugate allegation, investigate properly the allegation made by Junior Bash, which says that the president himself is involved. His allegation should be investigated. Or you come and give all this lip service about allegation, you give all this lip service. You know, and let me tell you too. Today in today's paper, a gentleman wrote a letter there, which I think I should read to you. Gentleman wrote a letter. Gentleman by the name of Keith Bernard. He writes frequently and always write things that make sense, as we would say. The Guyana Police Force's recent appeal for citizens to, quote, stop paying bribes, end of quote, would be laughable if it were not so tragic. To place the burden squarely on the public without acknowledging the force's own complicity is to insult the intelligence of every Guyanese who has had to navigate a system steeped in corruption from the colonial era to the present day. Bribery in this country is not an occasional slip. It is the air we breathe. At the licensing office, at the wharf, on the roadways, or even at the airports, the culture of, quote, something for something, end of quote, has long been entrenched. Citizens do not invent this system. Citizens did not invent this system. They have been conditioned into it by officers and officials who make extortion routine. To now lecture the public about refusing bribes is not only hollow, it's hypocritical. The rot runs deep, and recent scandals make this painfully clear. Just weeks ago, airport officers were caught on camera extorting money from a passenger. In Berbice, police rank allegedly pocketed nearly $500,000 to cover up discovery of an illegal firearm. And higher up the chain, the stench of corruption is ever stronger. Millions in explained wealth, frozen in the accounts of senior officers, procurement scandals, and allegation that oversight bodies themselves are compromised. Against this backdrop, the police force's appeal to, quote, stop paying bribes, yes, end of quote, is less a call to integrity and more a desperate attempt to deflect blame. Let us be honest. The average citizen does not pay a bribe because it is convenient. They pay because they are coerced. When faced with the authority of a uniformed officer who hints at, quote, making things easier, end of quote, refusal is often not a real option. Telling citizens to resist in such circumstances without force reforming the very institution that creates the demand is nothing short of cynical. If the police force is serious about tackling corruption, it must begin at home. Clean your own house. Punish the extortionists in uniform. Strip the corrupt of their rank and haul them before the courts. Allow independent oversight to break the cycle of cover-ups. Until then, appeals to the public will ring hollow as they always have. For decades, Guyanese have been told to endure the burden of corruption, while those entrusted to uphold the law feed off it. Enough is enough. If the police wishes to regain credibility, it must lead by example. Otherwise, its slogans will remain nothing more than just empty words in the society drowned in with bribery. Very appropriate letter. Today's Stabrook News. Very appropriate. You can't, I mean, this thing is laughable. Police come out and tell people, say, stop offering bribe, right? You're telling people offering bribe. All right, let me put it this way. If it is that we know it's illegal, we do know it's illegal, and if it is that people are offering the bribes, how many persons have been arrested for offering bribes to the police? How many? Tell me. Mr. Aiken, Mr. Crime Chief, y'all tell me. Until you can produce statistics to show that a sizable number of persons who have offered bribes to the police have been arrested, then you're making joke. You're just making joke. You're just talking without thinking it through. Right? You're talking without thinking it through. And again, I have to say, a lot of people don't agree, but again, I have to say, you know, they talk about the police force, and that is a sad thing. There are many, many ranks in the police force who don't take bribes, who are honest and hardworking, many of them. But they paint everybody with this broad brush. Guyana police force. All because you have some leaders who are corrupt, and they, by extension, the stench permeates down permeates the whole organization. I say this, I repeat this. The force needs reforming urgently. And I would hope that this government, now that they put 5 more years on them, now that this government will seek to address this in the manner it ought to be addressed. But I only know the breadth for that, because the corruption they're right in the government. So they don't have any interest in solving corruption. They don't have any interest. The government does not have any interest in reforming the Guyana police force, because the force, mired in stench as it is, they can call and give instructions and give directions and so on. That is what they want. They don't want a professional police force, because if you have a professional police force, a lot of the things that they would do, call and get this done, they know they can't do it. So they're not interested in that. They will come up with statements like these about wearing body cameras and all these type of things. That's superficial stuff. That's what they're going to talk. But they don't want any proper reform. And I said this too. I've said it again, so I'm repeating it, that if you want to reform the force, you have to get rid of some of those elements that are there. The police force cannot be reformed. The current Guyana police force cannot be reformed of some of the elements who are there. This is a statement I made to Gail Teixeira when she was acting over Affairs Minister some time ago, when I was put to lead the reform. And I told her, I said, reform police force has no place for certain people. And I called their names. Call their names. Oh, they do nothing. They don't happen. I get a suspicion that the way one of those persons reacted to me after that, they might have told him. They might, I was speaking the truth. Are you going to reform the police force if people were there who are alleged to have been taking a whole set of money for corrupt murder, man take money for wedding, and people taking money for gun license, people taking driver's license, all those things. And the reaction, the default measure is to deny. And when they can't deny fully, they now come and say, oh, we can wear, you're blaming the public offering the bribe. So they are the culprits. And that, as I've said, if it is that they are the culprits, show us the evidence where you have arrested so many of them for offering the bribes to the police. Show us that. As you rightly pointed out, both the giver and the taker are guilty. But they would normally say that if there was no giver, there would not be a taker. Remember the other way around too, you know? If there was no taker, nobody can give. Right? So it cut both ways. And if you're really serious about it, you're going to address it in a holistic way. Not this piecemeal nonsense y'all doing all the time, trying to blame. When I read this thing, I said, there's stupidity. There's nonsense when I read this thing. Right? Now, I may bring CC if you want to see anything more about this before we move on to the other subjects. CC, anything more you want to say on this?
Yeah, I just want to repeat for sake of emphasis that the corruption is widespread. Traffic situation, right or your left, either your left or right. If you left something or right something, you know, it's there, and more so, it's frightening. The firearm approval. There's an established system that the reports through the commissioner must go through the Home Affairs to the firearm board, and they will recommend whether or not they give approval back to the minister and the commissioner. But persons getting their firearms without anything going to Home Affairs or anything going to the firearm board, it happening at headquarters. Now you pay your 2 million, depends on the caliber you want, and you get your firearm, your approval without it going. I know how to do it. And if the minister, and if people want to find out, ask David Ramnarine how he found out when Sila Prasad was the commissioner of police that a lot of person get approval and nothing went to the Ministry of Home Affairs. They get the approval right at headquarters, right there. And the same system is continuing, but this time is widespread. This time is widespread, and we're talking millions, unlike Sila Prasad time, we're talking millions, 2 million, and you get it. It ain't gained to Home Affairs, it ain't gained to the firearm board. Right there. Right there. So the corruption is there, and unless we say you do a holistic approach, unless you do a holistic piecemeal thing can't work, the situation will continue and will flourish. It's multi-million dollars, just going to be multi-billion dollars in enterprise going on. It's going on. And the corruption there and left, right, and center in all the departments, the branches is there. Finance office is there. Region 1 is there. Region 6 is there. You just mentioned it. Region 8 was yet. It is there. The corruption is there. And I agree with you, Paul. I endorse the statement that this police force can be reformed when there are certain people around there. And we're talking about certain senior men there. It cannot be reformed.
Yeah. Well, let me address a statement that is repeated oftentimes in the media and elsewhere. When I talk about the Guyana police force, and people say, "Oh, I see somebody just said, we need a new police service. Police force is a colonial concept." Let me say this: changing the name from force to service, changing the name right now from force to service, and make no sense. You change the name from force to service with all the corrupt people and all the corrupt practices, all the antiquated practices. What impact can that make? Tell me. Tell me. So I agree that yes, you got to change, but it's not just changing the name. Robson they said they can go to Parliament for change the name from force to service. What impact can that cause? Just a name change. And some intelligent people are supposed to be intelligent, will come with this craziness. I call it craziness because I've always argued that just changing the name, just going to Parliament and change the name, change 1601 to say it is now known as the Guyana Police Service, and making no difference. And making no difference. I was exposed to them type of training, and I know that when you want to change an organization, there are certain things you have to look at. You have to change policies. You have to change structure. You have to change personnel. Main things. Not just changing the name. Not just changing the name. So that we understand it. Not just changing the name. And when Mr. Conway spoke just now about the regions, corruption, and as we said before, corruption is not just a man giving you money. We talk about using your position to influence certain outcomes, right? That too is corruption. That too. So if you're accused of using your office to call GRA and say, look at this tax thing and so on, you're using your position to influence an outcome. That is corruption. That too is corruption. But we in Guyana, we have this narrow definition for corruption. But read, you're going to see corruption is not only collecting money. Many people will believe it's only the traffic man on the road who's alleged to be collecting things. He corrupt. But higher ups and other offices and so on, if you got to certain public service places and then they squeeze you and get you coming back until something passes, that is corruption. That is corruption. Now, but look, what is corruption? Let me tell you next thing is corruption. We heard recently, somebody asked the question here. Let me address it now. We heard recently of this incident in Region 1 involving the police and a 15-year-old female, right? The 15-year-old female is alleged that the policeman, a Corporal Khan, right, has an inappropriate relationship with a 15-year-old female from the area. So they start a little investigation. The mother of the child refused to allow the child to be examined, medically examined, to determine whether she's sexually active or not. And the mother, that too is corruption. And then the mother said that the corporal is a family friend. But let me show you the images that he made. First of all, this is the corporal. The name Khan. This is the commander, Ramana. I'm not sure who these two are. But information and investigation show that this man goes almost every place with Ramana. So it is alleged that they were together at Soku. That's a special organized crime unit. When he moved from there, because he's a mover. He has moved from Soku. I remember he went to traffic. I talked about Ramana. Koku, to traffic, to C Division, to 4C, 4D rather, right? Because see 4C, 4D, 4B, and then Region 1, right? The cocaine capital of the country. So the information is, the allegation is that this Khan moved from Soku with even D Division, even 4B with he, then he gone to Region 1 with he. So he look like he's the partner. You carry wherever you gotta go. And the mother said, or the mother of this child said that look, it's a family relationship. Well, look what family relationship look like. He's a family friend. Look what a family friendship looks like. That is the family friendship that the mother of this child is talking about. That this same Khan, Corporal Khan, from I think it's Region 1, Mabaruma Station, he is a family friend of them. Look the picture that has emerged. And I ask the question again, isn't the mother obstructing the course of justice because the mother is refusing to have the child examined? What happened to the children, the child welfare department and all of them? I hear they went there and it is alleged that the police give them a rough time to conduct their investigation. What is going on? It's all corruption. It comes in many forms. Yeah, Ballad, that is a family friend. They also, the couple is a family friend. And you know, when you look at social media, some questions are asked about this family friend or family friendship. Valid questions are asked. Valid questions are asked about the family friendship and the extent of the friendship. So that is what you have. That is what you have. Right? And how can we, again, as I've said, allegation is made against a child. And this mother is intervening to obstruct this investigation. What is it she has to hide? If you're so confident that nothing happened as you have claimed between this police corporal, big man, and your little young teenage daughter, why are you preventing the process from working? Why? Why? Answer that. A lot of women are here, and I know they will gladly give the guidance and advice as they did on Monday. Something is wrong. Something is wrong because I can't see any responsible mother having learned that something like that may have been happening to our teenage daughter is not going to be anxious to get to the bottom of it. Not going to be anxious to get to the bottom of it. Right? But that is what we have. That is what we have. Now let me move on. We talk, as I indicated on Monday, right? I wrote a letter. I feel compelled to write a letter to the editors. I know it was published, Stabrook News, Kaicho News. It might have been published elsewhere as well, about the carnage on the road. And I paid special attention to the Linden Suicide Highway. Why? Not because accidents are not occurring elsewhere, but because the accident on the Linden Suicide Highway follow a particular pattern, right? And the pattern is, and all of us who are around now, vehicles are parked on the road, especially in the night, right? Unlit, broken down vehicles carrying lumber and all this type of thing, break down on the road. The road is dark. People traveling, the speed limit is 100 kilometers. And there what happens? The evidence suggests that they don't see these things. And the Linden Highway 2 is known to have fog and mist during certain hours of the night. And they drive head-on into these vehicles. The evidence is clear, into these parked vehicles. Evidence drive straight into the vehicle. So I wrote to say that they should establish immediately, right, a Linden highway safety patrol. And I mentioned too the purpose of this patrol. This is not intended to be a regular routine, just drive around. It is intended to identify these potential dangers. I explained that in the letter. Identify the potential dangers and address the potential dangers. That is what I've said. That is what I said. That the letter was published on Monday, and then yesterday there was an article in the newspaper where the Stabrook News had an interview with someone who they say, a lady by the name of Ramona Durjan, and she is from the Guyana National Road Safety Council, right? And again, some of the utterances or some of the things they say, I find it sad because they don't understand what is really going on. I don't think. And here what the article says. Yesterday article, right? Started by saying retired Assistant Commissioner of Police Paul Slow has raised concerns about the continuing carnage on the roads of Guyana, end of quote, calling specific attention to the Linden Suicide Highway and pushing for the immediate establishment of a highway safety unit. Quote, whilst the evidence shows that this situation exists countrywide, it is clear that the Linden Suicide Highway has become a death trap and therefore should be given urgent attention, end of quote, Slow said. Also, former chairman of the police, also former chairman of the Police Service Commission, said in a letter to Stabrook News yesterday, that is Monday. As a former traffic chief, he suggested that the proposed unit be based on the highway and be equipped with sufficient resources, like manpower, vehicles, safety equipment, etc., while operating on a 24-hour basis. Quote, at all times, there must be a minimum of 2 vehicles well equipped with traffic cones, highly reflective warning signs, portable electronic warning signs, etc., traveling in opposite direction, the crisscrossing. The main purpose of the highway patrol, he said, must be to identify potential dangers. Example, broken down vehicles, erosion, loose surface, water lodged on the road surface, etc., and ensure that adequate warning signs are put in place at reasonable distance from the potential danger. Quote, I am sure that this measure, if immediately implemented, can have a significant impact on the safety of this important artery, end of quote. That is why I express. Now, coordinator of the Guyana National Road Safety Council, Ramona Durjan, agrees with Slow's recommendation, although she noted that there is already a highway patrol unit established. However, she was uncertain whether the patrol has the specific equipment that Slow is proposing and if it is fully functional. I'm going to analyze it. Let me read first. In an interview with Stabrook News yesterday, she expressed interest in the idea of providing training to the personnel already in place and said she plans to forward Slow's recommendation to the relevant highway safety officer to confirm whether the patrol is currently active. She highlighted the ongoing construction along the highway and explained that the council works closely with safety engineers. A recurring issue raised, she shared, is the lack of personal responsibility among road users. These areas are active project zones, and even with the speed limit set at 180 or 50 kilometers per hour, drivers should exercise common sense, especially in zones with construction workers and other hazards, she said. Many accidents occur due to drivers ignoring obvious dangers, such as overtaking and double white lines. Quote, a lot of times these things happen because people are not using their common sense. When you see a double line, it doesn't mean they put there because of style. It means that there's some danger there if you're overtaking, end of quote. Dojan expressed concern over the preventable nature of many road deaths, including issues of vehicles parked in unlit areas without proper safety equipment, and trailers being left along the road without clear authorization. Quote, it is so sad to see so many people dying on the roads when it is preventable. People who park in the dark without attaching safety equipment, they are trailers parked all over the road. Who gave them permission to park, she asked, end of quote. To address these and other road safety concerns, a major stakeholder meeting has been scheduled in the coming days, which will involve road safety representatives from across the region, traffic officers, and other relevant stakeholders. The aim is to develop strategies to reduce traffic congestion on the east coast of Demerara, curb the rise of road fatalities, and implement effective safety measures. She made a call for public participation, emphasizing the need for manpower and community involvement. With traffic often diverting through small streets when main routes are blocked, where police presence is limited, the council is promoting a campaign encouraging civilians to assist law enforcement in improving road safety. Quote, we are calling on everyone who has the interest of road safety and who would like to help with the situation. We need the manpower because we need to have people strategically placed to help the police. End of quote, Dugan said. Look, you get a lot to unpack. Because many of them are missing the point, including Ms. Dugan. She said, and to her, this, I don't know the person, let me understand, I don't know the person. But to say there's already an highway in place. She said, I am recommending that you have a dedicated highway safety patrol. I have set out what some of the terms should be. They're looking at safety, broken down vehicles, put reflectors, do that. And then to air, they're saying that we already have, right, highway safety patrol in place. They say, but you're going to accept some of the recommendation. And then they talk about training. Let me read the part. In an interview, she expressed interest in the idea, providing training for personnel already in place, and said she plans to forward those recommendations to the relevant highway safety officer to confirm whether the patrol is currently active. The lady from the road safety saying she's going to send the recommendation to the highway safety officer. Is there such a position? Highway safety officer? I don't know. Again, I'm saying these people don't admit that this is a grave situation. No, that's the problem. They try to deflect and divert. And that is part of the problem. And then before bringing Mr. Conway, she claims here that you get construction going on. A recurring issue raised, she said, is a lack of personal responsibility among road users. These areas are active project zones. They're active project zones. What type of signage they have? What type of signage they have to indicate that it's a work site? Reduce the speed to whatever it is, with adequate signs all over. The contractors should be mandated when they have these contracts. It should be contractual for them to put up these proper signs. Then you have to have people who are qualified to go and to inspect and to make sure that the signs are properly placed. I don't know what they're coming up with. A suggestion is offered. And as I've said before, They don't listen to suggestions. They don't listen to messages. They look to see who is the messenger. But anybody with a modicum of understanding and common sense will see that this is necessary because the accidents, most of the accidents occur on the Linden-Suzaik Highway in recent times where there are multiple deaths. It's because of broken down trucks and other large vehicles parked in the dark, and unsuspecting drivers drive smack bang into them. That is what the evidence suggests. It's not slow making that up. And therefore, that is what you have to address. Because I continue to argue that, yes, vehicles are going to break down. Vehicles are going to break down. But if you have this patrol that I'm recommending, they will see the danger. And if they're equipped as they should with proper reflective and other signs, they're going to put it there so these drivers driving, going, will see the danger ahead. And I don't think they're suicidal. So that once they see the danger, I believe they are going to avoid the danger. And the danger is not only broken down trucks, as I've said. There are other dangers. People have been talking about the road surface being done. And I understand now from something I read this morning, because today too, I ain't got time to go into that today, but the editorial in today's Tabrook News addressed this issue as well. So I'm glad, because it seems as though this issue is gaining traction. And I hope that the government, many agencies, we're talking about, not only the police, many times people believe police is responsible. Not only the police, the people dealing with works, jail ministry, should get an involvement. The people who dealing with the local authority, prior now, should get an involvement. Frank Anthony, Ministry of Health. All of those people should have an interest in making sure this is a national crisis. And I don't know about this meeting that they said that they're calling. They're calling some meeting to discuss these issues and so on. It's not only discussing the issues. There are certain measures can be immediately put in place, like the one I'm recommending for the Linden-Suzaik Highway. I am saying to you that if those measures are implemented, right, you can tweak it. You can maybe bring additional thing. But if you have a highway safety patrol equipped in a manner that I'm recommending, to do the things that I've recommended, it's a safety patrol to identify unsafe areas and mark it. So if it's a road deteriorate, whether, sometimes you're going to the road suddenly get uneven, all of those things you have to identify. Put up signs. And if you want to clear that is carelessness, when you put the signs, and if people fail to obey the signs, then you can say, well, maybe they're careless. Not all of them are careless. Some are careless, some are reckless. Some are suicidal. We know that. But you have to cater for the general public. There's a suggestion too in today's editorial in the Stabrook News. Perhaps it is time that they stop using the road this truck on the road to fetch logs. All of those things you have to interrogate. Because they suggested maybe logs now got to travel by river. All of those are things you got to think outside the box. Don't come with this reflective thing, or you're blaming the people that talk about vehicles, broken down vehicles, trailer park, and all. Yes, it is irresponsible of the people, but the government, through its agencies, has a responsibility to make sure those dangers are identified and dealt with. Not everything can move, tractor, trailer park on the road. All right, get reflectors, get signs. I said before, you should mandate, that happens in many places in the States, that trucks and other vehicles must have safety equipment, reflective equipment, so that when you break down, you can put up the signs to alert people to the danger. You can get them thing in Guyana, and then you complain, they're going to tell you increasing. No, according to them, the traffic deaths are not increasing, because now they get road fatalities, road accidents, and road incidents. So deaths are increasing, but they're trying to fudge the thing. They're trying to fudge the thing, right? And let me before bringing CC, let me say this. I'm gonna come back to this, because this matter, as I've said, it's urgent, and we should not allow it to slide. I am gonna continue to you can call me a broken record or anything like that, but I'm gonna continue to deal with it. Aman said, these people are ordinary, Let me try to find what somebody wrote. Somebody wrote to say, following the letter, you got comments and so on, right? Somebody said, Somebody said the name Chet Rafi Sunarain. Can someone ask Paul Slow if he remembers the incident on the Guy Bridge, 1993 to 94, when a minibus overtakes him on the bridge and how the matter ended? He was then the commander of D Division. I can't remember the incident, but there's only one way such a matter can end. Let me tell you. If you overtook me on the bridge, there's only one way the matter can end. The driver is going to be apprehended and charged, because to overtake on a bridge is prima facie dangerous driving. So I don't know if he meant it as a compliment. I don't know, but the tone suggests that maybe he trying to ridicule. But I hold that as a badge of honor, and many people who knew me then know that he driving on the road, not only on the bridge. If you I was driving at the prescribed speed limit, and you flew past me, I am going to deal with you. I am going to deal with you. So this man said, apparently sometime on the bridge in 1993, you're right, I was in command. I was at West Demerara, not in command all of the time, but I was West Demerara. And if I was driving along the Guy Bridge, you call him, I think it's Demerara Bridge you mean, and a minibus overtook me, there's only one way that's going to end. So he asked the question, I must say how that matter ended. Without remembering the incident, there's only one way that can end. The driver can find himself on a charge. Because to overtake on that bridge or any bridge is dangerous, prima facie dangerous driving. Let me understand it. Dangerous driving. Before I bring in Cecil, let me go back to this fatal accident. I almost forget. There was a fatal accident they're reporting where a policeman struck and killed, I think it was all yesterday morning, a man on the Monrepos public road. And the police release, mind you, said that the motor car driven by this police lance corporal was proceeding west along the northern drive lane of the Monrepos Road, public road. Again, listen to me carefully. That is what they say. That the vehicle was proceeding west. That was, he was coming towards Georgetown, right? And he was on the northern driveway lane of the Monrepos public road. When this pedestrian ran from south to north into the path of the vehicle, he was struck and he later died. Well, let me tell you all this, right? And I can read the law to you all. I have been saying it over and over. That is one of the problems we have. People don't know certain basic rules, right? Because I would say immediately, based on what was said by the police, I know all the circumstances. They're talking about speed and all and everything. But prima facie dangerous driving. You cannot drive, if you're coming to Georgetown, you cannot drive on the as you were saying, on the northern drive lane. You have to drive to the left or near side. So if you're coming to town, basically you ought to be in the southern drive lane. Because there are two lanes, right? Two going up, two going down. We talk about coming to town, they got two lanes coming down. And the section 47 of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act is clear. Now when you drive, you gotta drive to the left or near side of the road. And I've been hammering this away all the time. I'm saying people in Guyana don't know to use the lanes. They don't know, so they're driving on the incorrect side. And here what the law says, let me read it quickly to you. It's not only CC that's read, I can read the law too. It's section 47.1. Every person in any road who drives or propels any vehicle or is in charge of any animal when meeting or heading or being overtaken by any other vehicle or animal, as the first said, shall keep his own vehicle or animal on the left or near side of the road. And when overtaking another vehicle or animal going in the same direction, shall keep his own vehicle or animal to the right or offside, except in cases of actual necessity or otherwise sufficient or other sufficient reason for deviation. Basically what it is saying, you have to drive on the left or the near side of the road. And when you want to overtake, you come out on the right side, you overtake, and then you go back to the left. That should be the rule. But look and see what's going on. They sit down in the wrong lane. Police stand up there. Police doing it too. And nobody is warned, so look, keep to the left. And I made the point here before. I have driven around several Caribbean countries, actually driving, and they get signs, keep to the left, keep to the left. We don't have that in Guyana, so it's a free-for-all. And you know, you ever say about overtaking, you say when you're overtaking, you got to keep to the left, and they say, except Let me read about. You left on their side, and when overtaking another vehicle or animal going in the same direction, shall keep his own vehicle or animal to the right. So when you're overtaking, you overtake on the right. Go along the East Coast Road, which I'm familiar with. Right? People sit down in that right, the northern lane. Right? They sit down in there. Driving within the speed limit in many cases. You would blow for them to pull over so you could pass on the right as prescribed by the law. They don't move. They're not moving. That is part of the problem. And that is why I say what we're trying to address, or what they should be trying to address, is a lawless culture on the road. All categories of road vehicles. So when they come out dealing with motorcycle for 2 morning, and then they go back, and then I suspect they're going to jump and deal with something else. You have to have an holistic approach to this madness on the road. I'm going to continue highlighting the traffic craziness because lives are lost unnecessarily, senselessly, recklessly. Lives are lost. Families are devastated. The economy suffers because when you look, many of these people who are killed are of productive age, young people, productive age, devastating families. And you know, when I was at traffic, we had sought to quantify the cost of each fatal accident, each damage accident, where there are injuries, where there are not injuries. There's a formula. We tried to quantify it, and I had made some recommendations based on that. But the systems are there. That is what they should do. Rather than cussing up the ranks to tell them what you post and all them type of thing, you have got to sit and deal with it. And the next thing you got to do, Miss Dugan or whatever she name, talks about trailer and all these things parked on the road. Invest in tow trucks like this. Because when a vehicle is broken down on the highway, you don't have the resources, I don't think, at this stage. You move it. So in addition to putting signs, you have got to be able to remove it to a safe position, right? Invest, you get money. Some of the money that the thief in, take and invest in this type of thing to make sure that the place is safe. You get a vehicle, and I thank the student who sent these images to me. Move the vehicles. Identify some place where you can put them. Work out something to recover the cost from the owner of the vehicle. That is what you got to do if you're really serious about adjusting the car. Those are some of the measures about adjusting the car. Because at the end of the day, I think part of the big problem too is how people acquire their license and how people comply. Again, going back to the Linden Suzaik Highway, talk about construction going on. Now in the Linden Suzaik Highway, very few places where you have big construction going on, you see proper signs and all this type of thing. They don't have signs. It's just people doing their own thing. I remember posting a picture here some time ago when they were doing the school, Christchurch School. They took 2 bench and put it in Middle Street. That was the warning. They put 2 bench in Middle Street for black traffic. 2 bench. I'm saying the contractors have a responsibility, should have a legal obligation to make sure that proper signs are placed on the roadway to warn people and so on. I know these things can happen because we are not as litigious as we should be. Because when people get killed under them circumstances, the family should sue. But what's going to happen? First of all, it's a whole long process, and then how much money you're going to give you? How much money? Police kill Quinn and Bacchus, and the judge awarded 20 million. Or they threatened to appeal because they believe that was too much. They threatened to appeal, right? They threatened to appeal. I'm bringing CC, man. CC, let me hear you on this traffic thing again, man. We got to keep on it because, as I've said, following the accident, the last accident on the Linden Suzaik Highway, I wrote this letter, which was published on Monday. Then Tuesday, that's yesterday, the Kaicho News, pick it up. Stabrook News, rather, got an old article on it. And then today, Stabrook News again, editorial, dealing with the same situation. Let me hear your views.
Yeah, getting back to the traffic. Yes, there's a building on the highway. I think there are a couple of traffic ranks there. But it didn't solve any kind of purpose, I passed there a number of times, and they're using there like a roadblock. You pass and see 2 or 3 traffic cones come and they stop people checking driver's license and all kind of thing. So according to what the woman's saying, I don't know they get a traffic safety officer there. And then she also mentioned that persons in place and they need training. So you put them there and then get training. So much things going wrong there. What are those traffic men doing there? Paul, you made a suggestion, and they should run with it. When you say how it should operate, but the resources that must be available to the ranks there, and this oil producing country, the fastest growing economy in the world. I remember the president said it on more than one occasion that he'll give the police all the resources that they want to make them look good, to make them perform well. So we mustn't finish with this traffic situation. And this morning, I read the editorial, and one of my friend, my co-conspirator, retired assistant commissioner, called me, and we discussed. And he said, the last paragraph of this editorial tells it all. And let me read it. Here we go. We can employ the latest technology, hire the best traffic consultants, rigorously train our traffic cops, install roundabouts, employ speed traps, and reintroduce the toll station. But as long as we cannot reorient the mindset of our drivers, who seem hell-bent on driving fast out at all times, the Linden Sustek Highway will remain a death trap, harvesting lives, our most precious resource. We need to be focusing on it. We shouldn't stop unless we get it right. The Linden Sustek Highway. Read this editorial. Very, very instructive. But the last paragraph, as my friend with Ibla Whitaker said, tells it all, and I agree with him.
Let me say this, because again, as I said in the letter, this carnage is countrywide. But I was identifying the issue on the Linden Susek Highway as a good place to implement measures immediately. So y'all don't go and say that you should only concentrate on the Linden Susek Highway. Yeah, you need to put some resources there and deal with it. But as you say, you got to reorient these people. All these trailers and all these things that the road safety people talking about. You have got to understand how you're going to treat with the matter. If the police vehicle pass and the police vehicle sees them in the evening or in the night, they've been a dangerous thing. What do? Do they put signs? Do they try to find out who the owner is and ask them to move into a safe position? And if they fail to do so, do you have the resources to move them off the roadway? This thing requires some drastic measures, It requires drastic measures. It's serious business. Lives are lost. Lives are lost. And once lives are lost, you have got to make sure that you put measures in place. And let me say this. Putting these measures in place will inconvenience a lot of people. But the majority of right-thinking people are going to support you. A lot of the majority of the right-thinking people. Because part of the problem now is that maybe even some of the right-thinking people are not aware of what is the correct thing. Let me be fair, let me be honest, let me be frank about this. The lady from the road safety said that they believe some of these markings there for design. I have said so. Many of the markings, when you come to solid lines and signs and things, people believe the way how they operate, they believe that those things are there for decoration. They believe that they are there for decoration. So it's not signs to be followed. Ask them what is a command sign. Ask them what is directional sign. Ask them about those signs. Ask some of the policemen who are in traffic the different type of signs and what they mean. And hear what the answers can be. Ask them. Ask them. People don't know. It's lack of training. And that is why I said on Monday that you need to invest in this infomercial, something similar to what we had some years ago called So You Think You Know to Drive, where you have simulations. You have a lot of money. You can even use AI and all this everything to generate these things now and have it on the airways, have it on social media. You're trying to re-educate a driving and not only driving, the road users in Guyana, because people have forgotten how to use the road. And let me say this before I move. Let me say this. It is my belief that those who are doing the wrong thing far exceeds those who are doing the right thing. So in many cases, you know the right thing, right? But sometimes you are forced, like let me say, like undertaking as we call it. A vehicle sit down, especially those large vehicles sometimes, sit down on the wrong side of the road. You will blow on them to pass. You want to pass. You're not exceeding the speed limit. You want to pass, but they're not moving. So what? Some drivers now are forced to pass on the wrong side. They know what is the correct thing, but the circumstances are forcing them to do the wrong thing. That's what we're talking about. Because I look at it frequently on the East Coast, where policemen are standing there, patrol police vehicles and so on. And I'm asked to sit down in the wrong lane all the time. Nobody warns, nobody indicates will drive on the left side. It doesn't happen. It does not happen. And that is part of the problem. Let me bring in CC for its closing. And then we're going to, well, it's comments and closing at the same time.
Well, let me just ask a question or two questions. What has happened to the investigation with Lola? And what has happened with the investigation with the person who threw, the lady who got injured when they threw acid on her? In Lola's case, she said she identified the man. She said she saw him. She looked at him in her eyes. She mentioned the name. He was arrested. What has happened to that? And the acid throw, the man who wasn't at the scene get charged. What happened to the rest? What happened to those cases? Are those cases going to push under the unsolved red carpet? You know, what's going on with those cases? And there are many more, but I'm just picking on these two that are hot. Lola and the woman who they threw acid on.
Yeah, my brother. Yeah. And let me before let me there's a question was asked about this matter, and up to now, I don't think there has been a response. There's a puzzling incident, I call it. Let me see if I can find it. I try to this here. I'm still puzzled about. Yeah, I'm still puzzled as to exactly what transpired there. And I hope that by now we will have gotten some explanation. See the police removing a bike. What we saw there is the two men rode up and they went into they left the bike. Police then came up, seemed to have taken the bike away. But I don't know. It's puzzling as to exactly what transpired there. And perhaps at some stage soon, the police can give an explanation as to what has happened there. Folks, we have had a long morning. There are a few other things that we need to bring to your attention. You know, we have been telling you about the Venezuelan issue that we need to monitor closely, because the most recent thing that I read is that the President Maduro is planning to call a state of emergency in Venezuela to mobilize the Venezuelans in case there's any, in anticipation of some attack by the Americans. Because, you know, the it was reported in NBC or someone who's newscast that they're saying that they were drawing up plan to attack some of these drug cartels inside Venezuela. They're right nearby. And therefore, we have to be concerned that if there's any conflict in Venezuela, justified as it may be, we might very well be collateral damage. I understand that in Trinidad, the fishermen are afraid to go and sea. They are afraid to go and sea. We can very well anticipate if there's any real issue, if there's any real military conflict in Venezuela, we can see a larger influx of Venezuelans into Guyana. Now that the elections are over, maybe the government will seek to stop them. Right? They don't want the votes any longer, so they might seek to stop them from coming in together. But it's a worrying thing. It is indeed very, very worrying. The next issue I want to talk about before we close is that we were telling you about the convening of Parliament. I read where the president made a statement to say Parliament will be convened within the constitutional time frame. And I think they're saying the constitutional time frame is 4 months from the dissolution, from when it was dissolved, sometime in July. They get 4 months. So they still, the deadline is next month, November. And many questions are asked, why you have the elections done, parliamentarians are named, and cabinet members are named. Why not convene Parliament so that the people can start to do the work that they are elected for? But we don't know. And some other statements were made in relation to that same thing, published today. Is it today? Yeah, October 1st. We don't have time to go into it now. Maybe you want to read it in Kaicho News. President Ali Ang's Parliament's fate on November deadline. Read it. That's your own work. So until we come Friday, we can discuss it. It says the President Ali Ang's Parliament's fate on November deadline. And some statements were made, or some statements they were attributed to the president. I would wish to discuss. Because the president talked about the Constitution and all of that. Talked about those things, I would want to discuss it. Now, Mr. Conway asks about the Loladal matter. Men were arrested. One man said, you get alibi. I don't know if you are an accessory to a crime, not a principal, but an accessory where you can get alibi. I don't know, but these people bright. They've been to law school and so on. In other words, here's what I'm saying. If somebody set up a murder, they set it up, and they're arrested, right? What alibi you're talking about? What alibi? They were never at the scene. They don't have to be at the scene if you set it up. They said they got alibi. Then the other puzzling one with the drug the matter with the acid, they claim that a man gave a statement that he hired somebody. They claim the person is well known to the police to carry out this act. And they charge E with carrying out the act. I don't know. But some of these things are very baffling. And then, about over a month past now, that the police reported that inspector and other ranks, every time there was an inspector, maybe them newly promoted inspector, other ranks, robbed a Chinese man in Church Street of $5 million. That's what they report. They robbed a Chinese man. The man, they claimed, won some money in the casino, and when he came out, he was intercepted by the police. They claimed that he offered the policeman 1 million or something. I said, no, they take away the 5 million. We were told that they were under close arrest. What has happened? They're talking about corruption. They're talking about integrity. They're talking about transparency. What has happened to that? Initial report, nothing else. Nothing else. What has happened to Mandal? That, Adriana Young matter gone, swept under the carpet. What happened to Mandal, the assistant commissioner, who was attempting to mislead the people? He was put on administrative leave since April or May this year. Still on administrative leave? You're going to tell me there ain't got no police service commission, so you can't deal with him? And then the president is now further delaying till maybe the constitutional limit to the formation of parliament, because to get a new police service commission, it requires the work of parliament. So what? What happened to M. Nath Shah, a senior superintendent of police who the U.S. sanctioned as a drug trafficker? What happened to all of those matters? What happened to the cocaine that turned flour in police headquarters? Large quantity of cocaine turned to flour in the police headquarters. What happened to those matters? Minister, the new minister, have you asked them to brief you on those matters? Would you at some time soon address the media and answer these questions? So many things. Because if you're talking about transparency, if you're talking about professionalism, words that they have been repeating frequently, show us how transparent you are. If there's nothing to hide, let the public know what has happened, right? Let the public know. And there are so many others in recent times. You hear about the police sergeant at West Demerara who they claim was some ringleader in some housebreaking gang. Nothing. That's months. Nothing has happened. You get the matter with prisoner found dead, beaten and taken to Parfait Harmony. Nothing. Rape at Parfait Harmony. Nothing. Man in vehicle, police chasing someone, the vehicle was being chased, licked down a man and kill him in the road. Nothing. Nothing. You're talking about, it's not only about transparency, it's about accountability. Because if people know, or the ranks believe that they're going to do these things and get away with it, then there's no bar to them not doing these things. They're going to continue to do it, right? Because the old system has broken down. And note what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's breaking down. It has broken down. The disciplinary system in the police force, as I know it, has broken down. Some people get in with all sort of things. And every time they come out, all they're doing is tweeting, and rolling back the barriers. That is what they're doing. That is what they're doing. No real code of dress and conduct and so on. One of the things that annoys me a lot now, I'm not from old school. I know y'all can say me he's a dinosaur. I don't care. This is a policeman in the public without a dress and shabbily dressed and all this type of thing. Those things weren't allowed and permitted in my days. Right? No, because it's about the image. And we were told that you never get a second chance to make a first impression. It's about the image and the impression. I remember a story being told, I don't know how true it is. It had a traffic man who was obese. Yeah, but remember, Sammy, I think his number was 0966. Sammy had good size. He had good size. He was stationed somewhere along the East Bank. And a certain assistant commissioner came from the airport, and the first police he saw was Sammy. He said, it's a bad image. He must move from there. You don't want strangers to come off or come into the country, and the first police they can see is a big, fat police. He said, no. He must move from there, put him somewhere else. Image, man. Image means such a lot. The image means a lot. So we got to understand these things. But what? Nothing I'm doing, man. Nothing I'm doing. And then they jump and they run. They talk about they're attacking or they're deflecting the people who are offering the bribe now. It's not the bribe taker, it's the bribe giver. That is what I want us to believe. It's not the bribe taker, but it's the bribe giver. And in many cases, not just taking, it's demanding. When I was in the force, we used to charge, one of the charges, demanding with menace. That was a frequent charge. When it's a frequent in the terms of when policemen were caught, they weren't caught frequently, but whenever they were caught, demanding money with menace, put before the court, dealt with according to law. But then them things don't happen now. Them things don't happen now. People, I got a tape, or there's a video. I didn't get to prepare it for today's program, but hopefully when we meet next, it will be prepared. Where a man making some serious allegations against a police sergeant and some others. Serious about monies and bribe and all this everything. Serious. Are they not? I'm sure that if they're monitoring, they should know it and therefore investigate. But just in case you all don't know about it, I will seek to highlight it on Friday so that you all can know and you can do something about it. Folks, we have had a long morning, as I've said. Again, I thank you for your attendance. And to say midweek, our next program is scheduled for Friday the 3rd. And that's a special day for me. Friday the 3rd is a special day. I'll tell you about it on Friday. So what I ask you to do again is to be safe. Be safe. Take care. Look after yourself. Look after your loved ones. The roads are dangerous. Right? All sort of things happening in Guyana. All kind of dangerous things are happening. The roads are dangerous. Not in the Linden Suicide Highway, but on all the roads are dangerous. And therefore, you have a responsibility to take care of yourself. So until we meet again, take care of yourself. And that God's Spray Life, we got to meet on Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Until then, take care. Bye.